Hello, my name is Joanna Yannister, and I'm a drama therapist. And I'm here to talk about drama therapy in the context of the wonderful Heartfire course, and hoping that um, I can explain how drama therapy can help in such a course. I have 32 years experience as a drama therapist, and I've worked mainly in mental health, but also in the latter years, since I did my PhD, I've worked with people with dementia. And I'm going to talk first of all an introduction as to why this interest is there about a drama therapist helping with the Heartfire course. We actually understand trauma now much better than we used to. However, not all courses acknowledge this. I have a colleague who has had a really terrible experience in one of our universities running an actors course. She came to me in 2017 when I was co-teaching a grad dip through Icon in drama therapy. And when she told me of her experience of her acting course, I was very shocked because she and her colleagues were asked in their first year to, right at the beginning, I think, of the first year, to think of the worst situation they'd ever had in their lives and to enact that in front of the others. And Michaela actually made one up very, very smartly, made one up, because what she could see was her students, her fellow students, were actually crying because of the past trauma that they were representing. And the tutor was asking them to sit down and listen to the next person. She also told me when she came to the drama therapy course that she was very interested in safety, and we'll be talking about that quite a bit. They were also asked to actually perform naked in the course. So yeah, we're now coming to a time when the nature of trauma is much better understood, and therapists have to be trauma informed. Porges is foremost in his idea of the polyvagal theory, which provides the basis for the study of stress, emotion, and social behavior. It links the autonomic nervous system's evolution to feeling experience, emotional expression, vocal communication, and contingent social behavior. In anthroposophical terms, I would say that Peter Levine, who took his Borges' work in his resourcing process, helping clients to be really present in their bodies through breathing, playing, and singing, this being a very helpful people who with past trauma, which of course we all do have past trauma. In anthroposophical terms, this is about balancing the nerve sense pole and the metabolic system. Van der Kolk's 2002 research shows that traumatic response becomes deeply embedded in the sensate experience, showing that visual and movement-oriented memories stored in the brain can be positively affected without entering into the trauma narrative. He says that creative arts therapists have made a huge contribution worldwide to people with trauma. And this is to circumvent the speechlessness that comes with terror. Now, I'm going to share the screen now. So you should be able to see me and at the same time see my screen. How does one introduce drama therapy into an acting training? Obviously, in Hartford, there is an agreement or a contract for the students, and you have to work with whatever arises. It's a training for actors, but sometimes the occasion arises where there are social dynamics or a person has to be encouraged to take another step. So group or individual. Safety is also a very important area where the Christ principle of freedom helps us to be responsible. We insist on safety to allow that freedom. What do I mean by that? We do so that the person with trauma is free to choose out of their own freedom. Christ came and brought freedom. All the stories of the Gospels show that. So people come to him when they feel free to do so. And so we have to be responsible to encourage safety, unlike in the course that Michaela did, when the person is ready to make changes in their lives and deal with past trauma. So drama therapists too make contracts. We make an agreement with the participants and everyone stands by the agreement. It's usually best if that can be on the wall for each session, either for the group or for the person, the individual person. So everyone stands by that agreement, and new people have to have a look at it and see if they can keep to it as well, because the existing students have already agreed to the contract. So a training for actors may be held up by a blockage in social dynamics with unresolved issues coming up and interfering with the course. So this is how a drama therapist can help. This is not bringing a drama therapy course into the acting training, but we're looking at the necessity because of unresolved issues coming up and interfering with the training. So this slide gives some information that is on my website. This is for people who find the website and want to know what drama therapy is. So some of these items are taken from the British and the North American associations of drama therapy. It uses theatre quite intentionally and drama techniques to encourage creativity and expressive ability, but I'd have to say too, to bring about psychological growth and change. It helps the clients to tell their story, express their feelings, set goals, extend their inner experience, and try on more fulfilling roles. so far unexplored. Using the imagination, we want people to explore ideas and address the relationships in their lives and social situations through drama. And we want people to be playful, to play with their life script, telling their story in a new way. Dramatherapy wants to improve motivation, social skills, self-awareness, and self-esteem, developing concepts of responsibility for the self and others in relationships. The training that I did was in England back in 1992, and I went over there from Australia and succeeded in gaining a place there through interview. But I really needed to find out more about drama therapy while I was there, because very little existed in Australia at the time. So I did a summer school and was lucky enough to to be in the sessions run by Roger Granger, who was a priest and a drama therapist and a psychologist. And I've said here, his spiritual view of the work aligns with Steiner's views on human relationship in the Wings of Words, on the Wings of Words, which is a wonderful text that I'm studying at the moment. So I found this wholeness through working with Roger that encouraged me to do the course, because it was quite a long way away from my home in Australia, to a long time to spend, because of the different academic arrangements in the two different countries. Roger talks about always giving a form to chaos, definition and identity to a moment or relationship of moments within the flux of events. This is the kind of artistic ability we all possess, and that we use to distinguish among the various conventions involving multiple role playing in a hyper-organized society. So now I'd like to just show you some of the people who have influenced drama therapy. There are many, probably others that aren't here, but two important ones are Stanislavski and Brecht. So Stanislavski's method acting you'd all be familiar with, and he, I'm going to talk about that later on when we talk about distancing, but he was getting his actors to think about or re-experience something from their past that aligned with whatever the role that they were playing in their performance. So it was very personal. And Brecht was the opposite. Brecht wanted to take his audience right away from the self. He wanted people to have a much more intellectual view of the performance in front of them. And he used various devices, like setting his plays in different countries, sometimes imaginary, and using a political framework, and using lots of songs. And so he wanted the issues to be thought about, and that's how he wanted his audience to be. He talked about a Verfremdungstechnique, a distancing technique that was to take the audience into the thinking realm. Wertheimer in Gestalt has been quite a big influence. Professor Phil Jones, who trained me, used a lot of chairs and a lot of objects in our practice when we were learning. Grotowski was a Polish actor. He wrote Towards a Poor Theatre, and he has a special relationship with his audience, which is more shamanic. He takes them on a shamanic journey. So some drama therapists can actually lean towards that shaman role. Very few actually, but some do. Peter Brook, The Empty Space. I'm sure that you would have that on your course as well. It's really there so that people can see from his work how the drama has to be alive. He talks about the dead theatre and how easily it is to get into something that's dead. Peter Slade is an Englishman who got very fascinated with child drama because he actually went to school in an institution from which he could see his own home, which was very upsetting for him. And the only reason he survived, he said, was to take his fellow students up into the play areas of the school and imitate the teachers. And that kept him sane. So, next slide. Zirka Marino. So you'd all know the name of Marino, who was the person who created psychodrama. And you know that Dawn has a lot of experience of psychodrama, which is quite different from drama therapy, although a lot of its ends are the same, its intentions are the same. So Marino was active right from 1915, right at the beginning of the last century, where he lived in Vienna, and he was skilled enough when there was problems in Vienna in a particular school to come along and work with those people and reverse the roles so that the teachers had to be the students, play the students, and the students had to play the teachers. And he was able to help support the people to improve that whole situation. Marino's theories, though, were quite intellectual, and it really took his second wife, Zirka, who's pictured here, to bring his knowledge and his techniques down to earth so that people could learn them and experience them. So this was, I think Zirka died about 2.5 years ago. This was in 2005 when I visited her in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I was very amazed to see how much like drama therapy her work was. So it was very safe. I haven't always found psychodrama sessions to be safe sessions. And they're very different from drama therapy. So I put this slide in her honor, really. So the main difference between psychodrama and drama therapy is that the psychodramatist is really the director of the participant, usually somebody who has been in the warm-ups beforehand, shown act hunger, and so becomes the protagonist. The director directs him or her and asks them to choose an auxiliary with whom they can reverse roles. And there are other skills which the director has to help the protagonist, such as asides and doubling. I won't go into here, but it's very much more formal than drama therapy, where the group is like a bunch of grapes, so to speak, where coming together in warm-ups using their will forces will lead into the middle section, which is more of the feeling section of a session, and the theme will emerge from that, and the drama therapist is there to just help direct that theme for the group so that some wisdom may come out in that through the interactive experiences of the people. And then the thinking part is at the end, where there's a reflection. So can't see everything that's written here, but this is the work of Brenda Meldrum, who, along with Sue Jennings, whose name you may know as a drama therapist, Brenda wrote a chapter in a book in 1994, splitting drama therapy into 4 general sections. So the theatre mode is where participants take on roles in a play and suspend disbelief using the as-if experience of living in the role. I've only done that a couple of times. It's not something that it's not one of my favorite modes of drama therapy, but people then question why they've been given a particular role and use that role to compare with their life. Therapeutic drama therapy uses story and myth and legend, and it's used for the client to connect in a distant way from their own story. And that's more like the kind of drama therapy the kind of mode that I might be using more often. And Alida Gersi, the other person who trained me, is quite well known in drama therapy circles. She's a storyteller and has done a lot of research in that area. In fact, she's also she did a horticulture course in the 90s, when it seemed that climate change was going to be such an issue, and has worked extensively with farmers and with people in agriculture and communities on climate change. In fact, she's edited a wonderful book on storytelling in climate change. It's called, it has nature in the title, yeah. Then there's the role theory model, where clients are offered various roles outside of those they already play, so that they can be discouraged from being stuck in a role, and also look outward to see what roles they can try on to help them in their future life, present and future life. The anthropological approach to drama therapy is really very much Grotowski's work, where the actor is seen as a shaman. So I haven't come across many drama therapists who work in this way, but I think it needs a lot of skill in order to work in this way. So I talked earlier about distancing when talking about Brecht. One of the main ways a drama therapist can help keep their participants safe is to keep them at something called aesthetic distance. It's a bit like how in politics we have right and left of center, but really what is safest for people, and people really want to be in the middle. This model comes from Scheff, a social scientist, and he took Brecht's Verfremdungs technique, distancing, and used it for a distanced approach to performance or for any drama that was happening. And on the other end of the scale was the less distance, the very close to home, something from out of lived experience. I talked at the beginning about lived experience and how dangerous that could be at the wrong time, in the wrong place, in the wrong too little preparation, etc. So perhaps I should talk a little bit first about Aristotle's book Poetics, which is because we're looking at catharsis theory here. So catharsis is what can happen in the middle. And Aristotle's theories derive from medicine, but he seems to be the first to write about catharsis. And the verb katharo in Greek is meaning to cleanse or remove impurities. He believed that theatrical tragedy purified spectators by releasing them from unpleasant or excessive emotions. And of course, the main wonderful theatre in Greece is right next door to the medical centre. Anyone who's been there. So pity and terror play the most significant roles, or pity and fear play the most significant roles in the cathartic process. His model, Scheff's model of distancing, has its roots in sociology, psychotherapy, drama, and ritual. And his ideas were derived from the theories of Aristotle, as well as others. He argues that cathartic crying, laughing, and other emotional processes in a properly distanced context are safe. When emotions are too painful, they're repressed. Finding a balance of distance in a therapeutic situation allows repressed emotions to be exonerated or processed. Sheff called this phenomenon abreaction and considered it to be responsible for therapeutic change. He believes there are 4 phases to catharsis. The first phase involves the balance of attention between over-distance and under-distance stimuli. And I'll show you much more in a moment how we can use objects and so on for bringing people to taking people to more distance. The second phase is determined by the participant's response or ability to find a balance between past distress and present safety. And the next phase is characterized by those emotional responses, such as crying and laughing. Finally, in the fourth phase, tension is decreased, insight is gained, and there are feelings of satisfaction on reflection. Masks can be a wonderful medium for distancing and bringing about aesthetic distance, because the persona of the person is actually hidden by the mask. This photograph was taken on one of the Introduction to Dramatherapy courses that I ran, which were all about 6 weekends in a year, and a whole weekend would be the time for people to experience the masks. I'd get people to make 2 masks, one of a character that they had in mind, and the other one to represent a quality about themselves that they didn't often show. We worked with enormous respect for the masks. They have an ancient history, goes back thousands of years. The mask maker and the mask wearer would have special verses that they would say and rituals that they would perform before anything would happen with the mask on a participant. When we talk about safety here, behind that lettering, you can probably see a palm tree sheath that held a palm frond. The palm frond is still actually there. One participant in this mask weekend, was not sure at all about making or decorating a mask. So I asked her to go out into the garden and have a think about what she wanted to do. She came back with one of these palm tree sheaths, decorated it, and she was able to hold that just below her eyes and to take part in the whole of the weekend using two of those. She made two, one to align with what the other participants were doing with their two masks. So the mask work has to be dealt with very carefully, and that means quite a lot of warming up before the mask is even put on the face. It doesn't have to be put on the face. And this technique can really bring about aesthetic distancing, the distance between the person and the mask, perhaps, the distance between the two masks that were made. And at the end of the weekend, there was always a certain feeling that people had found out some of the things they came for. So projection. So the mask is about projection, obviously. But this, for people who may be under distance. Now, working in mental health, for me, this represented the group of people who had chronic schizophrenia, so were prone to be under distance. They might have even been hearing voices, but it's not helpful for somebody with florid schizophrenia to be doing drama therapy, but that sort of tendency could mean that they were very concrete thinkers, and one or two people would say to me, oh, what are you doing here, belittling me? I feel as though I'm in kindergarten. So it was very helpful, because of the concrete thinking, that people had an object or something in their hand to concentrate on, rather than anything that they might be regarding as a bit vague, or that was abstract thinking or something like that. So here you see cloths, which are so useful for the drama therapist, and a ball is always helpful too, to get people, probably the same as in an acting course. When people start in that course, I'm sure these things are used. Dress-ups have to be simple and easy, without zips and buttons. Objects are great. You probably see here that these objects are of the type that aren't around much these days. So these were the ones used for my wonderful cohort of people with dementia. Music and song is very important. Paints and paper and clay. So having these objects kept people at a distance from anything that might be rumbling around, especially at the beginnings of groups, sessions. So 3 types of drama therapy. These could be very useful in an acting course to see what might be going wrong, especially in groups. So Renee Muna is an American drama therapist who gives 3 different performances to a group. And the first is quite distanced, the second is less distance, and the third is very much in your face. So that first performance is structured by the drama therapists in the sense that each person is given a name and a role and a detailed scenario. One person is given the job of something like ringing around to old friends from university days and organizing a time and a day when they could all meet each other in a park and have a picnic together, catch up with news. So the first part of that is the ring around, then the second part, they're meeting in the park and chatting to each other, and the third part of that, once they've some of them have given each other their details in case they meet again one day, is a reflection on that work. Once they've de-rolled. De-rolling is very important. De-rolling plays a huge part in drama therapy, and we don't want anybody to leave a workshop with still bits of roles sticking to them. So the second less distance scenario is a family situation. So of course, as you can imagine, that's a core relationship. It's usually a mother, a father, and some children, principally a teenager and maybe a younger brother or sister, and they're given those roles, but they're given a scenario, but they can do very much what they want with that scenario. The scenario is something like the teenager wants to go out at night and doesn't want to be home by 10 o'clock. The parents are insistent that they come home by 10 o'clock, and they can see what they do with that. So 3 parts again. The first part is the discussion about that and the laying down of rules. The second is what actually happens, whether the teenager comes home at the time or gets somebody to phone up saying they're staying the night with the friends, people. And the third part, again, is a reflection on that. So the last one has really no bounds. So participants are asked to walk around the room and see what happens. So you can imagine that the drama therapist isn't going to ask just anybody to engage in that. So they're going to be very discriminating in the sense of knowing that, or having a very good idea who's going to be able to cope with that. But I've found in the past that can really bring out the theme of what's been happening in a group. So it could be a good way to see. It could be a good way to see who is involved or what is involved and what the theme is around any disruption that's happening in the acting training. Ritual is very important in drama therapy, and especially the ritual connected with grief. I can remember asking Alida Gosi back in 1993, what do we actually do in third term? So there was sort of a 3 trimester course. And she replied, oh, we just really do endings. And I didn't understand that at all. But I came to understand and see that, especially by being informed by the theories of John Bowlby, who was writing in the early 80s, how very important it is to really honor grief and endings. So in the dramatherapy group, say it goes for 10 weeks, we need to start looking at endings by the end of the 7th, really, because there are people who are going to grieve dreadfully about the group, let alone the other things that the ending of the group, let alone the other things that haven't been properly dealt with in the way of grief. So a lot of John Bowlby says most mental illness comes from unaddressed grief. If you think of piling one grief on top of another and never actually honoring it or releasing the feelings that attend it, not that we ever forget about a loss or a grief. So that is something that's really important in working with trauma, especially with people who have lost somebody who've taken their own life. So this is a fairy tale which might be distance from the protagonist. After people have been working for a while or have come to the end of a 6-weekend course, they are asked to take a story or make a story which is about themselves and where they might be going in the future. What they're gathering from what's gone before to help them on their way. So I have almost never come across any adult in the mental health system who isn't willing to take part in a fairy tale or a story. And in fact, this scene comes from a book which is for quite young children, comes from the Steiner bookshop, and it's called The Apple Cake. So one of the real advantages of this story is that it shows how help might be sought from a community and from very different and unexpected areas of the community or people in the community. So I'll just quickly tell the story of the apple cake. It's about an old woman who decided one day she'd like to make an apple cake, but she only had a plum tree in her garden. She had no apples. So she took her basket and put plums into her basket and went for a walk. And on her way, she came across a woman feeding her chickens. And the woman said, "Oh, plums, I love plums." So the old woman gave her the plums, and the younger woman looked around to see what she could give. "Oh," she said, "I've got feathers from my chickens. Would you like a bag of feathers?" "Yes," said the old woman. She took the feathers and went on her way. And then she came across two siblings, um, a, a boy and a girl who were fighting really hard about they couldn't decide what they were going to do to fill the armchair they were making for a grandparent. They couldn't, they didn't know whether to fill it with horsehair or foam. And the old woman said, "What about feathers?" and gave them the feathers, and they were thrilled. And they had a large garden, so they picked a big bunch of flowers and gave it to the old woman. So she thanked them and went on her way and saw a man looking very sad with his head down, walking along the road. Seemed to be quite a well-to-do, wealthy young man. And she stopped and asked him what was the matter. And he said, "My sweetheart has told me she won't marry me, and I asked her, and she said no, she wasn't ready. She didn't know whether she would be ready. And it's just so sad." And so the old woman said, "Take her this bunch of flowers next time you see her." And he looked around for something to give her, and he said, "I'd like you to take the ring, because I'm quite well off, and if she decides yes in the future, I'll buy another ring." So the old woman was well pleased and took the ring and went further. The first person she saw was a young mother, and she was sitting on the edge of a pavement surrounded by three little children who were going wild and a little dog who was going wilder. And she was crying. "What's the matter?" said the old woman. "Oh, we've been evicted from our home, and I've got no money. I don't know where we're going next." "Well," said the old woman, "take this ring. You can sell this for quite a lot of money, and that'll start you off with another place to live." "Well, all I've got to give you is this little dog." So she gave the old woman the dog, and she went on her way until she came to a beautiful apple tree full of apples, and under the apple tree was sitting an old man. "Oh," she said, "could I take some apples from your tree?" "Oh," he said, "as many as you want. I don't need them, and I'm just by myself, and life isn't really worth living, but..." "Oh." The little dog was rubbing up against his leg, and it seemed as though they were beginning to be firm friends. So the old woman took the apples, and she went back to her home, and she took out of the cupboard flour and sugar and milk and eggs and butter and the apples, and made a beautiful apple cake and sat down and ate it all herself. So this is another story, biographical story, which could be under distance, but the main thing about that is, again, people are asked to not go anywhere that is too difficult. So it's a metaphor for something that's happened in their lives, and they don't have to share. They don't have to share that. They can, and they often do, but they don't have to. And this is an example of that. So I think I've come to the end of this now. And yes, I'll just finish by saying that I hope that you have found something in this talk which will get you to ask questions, more questions about whether drama therapy could be useful in an acting course, and a little understanding of how that could be done. And then I think I've just got some references. So the first one is my drama therapy center. Then Blattner talks about psychodrama. Emuna talks about those 3 types of drama therapy. Granger is the priest who helped me decide that there was a spiritual element in drama therapy that I could do the course. So that's the Steiner book that I'm studying at the moment that I mentioned, On the Wings of Words. Peter Levine is someone who uses Porges' theories in helping people with trauma. Lucas is the Aristotle poetics person. Meldrum is the one who has 4 definitions of drama, and Porges already spoke about. Chef brought the idea of distancing to drama therapists, which was a great gift. And van der Kolk, you probably know his writing. He's just done amazing work on trauma. So thank you so much for listening. And now I'm going to stop the sharing. And say goodbye now. I think that once I stop the recording, it takes a little while to stop. So